Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, excellent. It seems like that happens every time when we first start, and I never know what is going on.
No worries.
It's so good to see you.
Good to see you again, and welcome back
Thank
to
you
the
for
Apostate
inviting me
Epistovus
again.
channel.
It's always such an honor and a pleasure.
So, I was going to try this kind of short format video this time, and you and I had been talking about something on Facebook. So I was just wanted to, invite you to kind of share what your methodology was for determining what is a literal in the Bible versus what's not literal.
Right. Well, I think usually in the Bible, when it's something that isn't supposed to be taken literal, it's identified as such. Like, for example, it will say Jesus told a parable. And so we obviously know that he's telling a parable. A parable isn't something that actually happened, but it's just a story that's supposed to be an example.
So it usually is identified. But I'm
Yes.
thinking of some other ones that aren't identified that clearly aren't literal, like Songs of Solomon.
Oh, yes, yes. Songs of Solomon is a book of poetry from a husband to a wife. But
So
I think it's identified as a poem written.
okay. Well, let me just look real quick. You're
Okay,
probably right.
it might not be, but I thought that it was identified as being a poem.
All right. Get up.
And while you're looking, I would just
Mhm.
like to say that I think the very best way to determine whether it's supposed to be taken literally or whether it's supposed to be taken as a metaphor or a colorful illustration or a poem is to have an open relationship with the author and ask him.
Okay. So, do you have a preferred version?
No, not really.
Okay.
My favorite version is the Passion Translation, but a lot of Christians get really up in arms about that and
Hmm.
don't like it. But
I
that's
know a
a
few.
version that I find to be very easy to understand. And since I spent a lot of time talking with children about the Bible, it's one of my very favorites because it's easy for me to understand and it's easy for the children to understand. So I love it.
Okay.
For
So,
the
a lot of people prefer King James version, so I'll read that too.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the King James version says the Song of Solomon, which is Solomon's, and then it goes in, and then it starts into it. So um, I guess you could interpret that first part to be identifying it as not literal. If Song of Songs means not literal. But I'll also read it in the Passion version.
Okay.
Do you
Oh,
happen to know the abbreviation for Passion version?
TPT,
TPT.
the Passion Translation.
Okay.
And I was about to say, I'm not sure if Song of Songs is in the Passion Translation because it's only the New Testament, but it's been translated. The New Testament and Psalms and Proverbs has been translated by the Passion Translation. So I don't think Song of Solomon is going to be in there.
Okay. Okay. Well, no worries. Let me see if I can find, what the Strong's Concordance or something says about Song of Songs, and what that, like the root of that language means, if we can get like a deeper explanation. So would you also say that some Psalms are poetic?
Well, Psalms is a book of prayers written by David. So basically, it's just like if someone grabbed my prayer journal and started reading it out loud. And so, yeah, I think the fact that we have the knowledge that it's someone's prayers indicates that not all of it should be taken literally, because it's not saying that it's a historical account of anything. It tells us that it's a book of prayers.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. I wonder if other believers would agree on that. Like, that seems to make sense to me. Just real quick, I did look up in Strong's Concordance the word song is sheer, and it's musical noun. It's the masculine. Oh wait, no. Yeah, sheer, and it just means song. So that seems to stack up with what you're saying.
Yeah, and I mean, it's, to me at least, it's kind of common sense that we don't take like every word of every song literally. So that's a good indication that we shouldn't take every word in that specific book to be literal.
Okay. All right. But but you would definitely say and don't let me put words in your mouth, that Genesis would be literal, because that's not identified as a song or a prayer, as far as I know. Am I incorrect on that? Let's just look up Genesis here.
Yeah, I'm ashamed to say I'm outside by the pool, and I didn't bring my Bible out here. I don't even have my Bible. And if I try to pull something up on my phone, then I'm afraid it would interrupt the video.
Okay.
So I'm just going to have to trust your integrity on the references for today, which I do.
No worries. No worries. Okay.
But I'm trying to think of something in Genesis that might not be literal. And I guess I could say we might not be able to take, I'm saying might not, just for the sake of conversation, I'm not sure, but there are places in the Bible where it says that a day to us is like 1,000 years to God, or that 1,000 years to God is something like that. It tells us that time doesn't pass the same for God as it does for us. So there's a possibility that when it says this was done in a day, that we're not really sure if that meant a day in God's time or a day in our time. I guess. And my grandpa was definitely of the opinion that when it said that God created the heavens and the earth on the first day or whatever, I wish I had my Bible so that I could know what I'm saying. But my grandpa was of the opinion that it might not have been a 24-hour period that these things were done, just because it says on the first day. But I have a different opinion than my grandfather, and I believe that it does mean a 24-hour period, but I'm also open to the fact that I could be wrong.
Okay. Yeah, that's 2 Peter 3:8. So let's see, let's look at King James Version first. Um, but well, let's see, this is King James. I don't know, this is KJ 21. That might be like the New King James. But it says, but beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that with the Lord 1 day is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as 1 day.
Yes. So yes. So because of that cross reference, I think it's possible that it wasn't 24 hours in which each day happened, but also I I I think also that that's a pretty important topic, and I feel like I think that God would give an indication to us somewhere in there that he didn't mean. I mean, it
Mm,
says it so many times, like, and the evening and the morning was the first day, and the evening and the morning was the second day, and the evening and
mm.
the morning was the third day. And so I think because it um repeats that so many times, that's why I have the opinion that it was a literal 24-hour period.
That makes sense. Um, would it, so when, but the other thing that I'm thinking about is like sometimes like when we tell stories about things, even like in parable sort of form, there are elements to that stack up exactly with reality. A good parable is something that's relatable, anchored in reality, and then kind of builds onto that with a concept. And so, you know, when I see in Genesis where it says like the fruit of, the uh, knowledge of good and evil, or the fruit of the tree of life. Um,
Yes.
so uh, to me, that makes me think like it's talking about cause and effect. Um, but do you feel like that those were physical trees that you could cut down and make like a ship out of?
I'm not sure. I will say that I don't think that the bite of the fruit was a bite of an apple. I don't think what
It just
Eve
says
did
fruit.
had anything to do with an actual fruit at all. So I guess I will say, because of that, I don't think that Genesis is 100% literal,
Hmm.
because I'm just not of the belief that the forbidden fruit was something that you eat for sustenance at all.
Mhm. I think I agree with you, but now what I'm struggling with is if there's part one and part the other, like how do we differentiate between what part of it is parable or non-literal, and what part is.
Yeah, and I guess that brings me back to the point that I made earlier, which is that um, we we can't have understanding of those things without asking God.
Okay.
He he's the author of it, and he knows what he meant. And so in order for us to know what he means, we've got to have a conversation with him about it. We've got to ask him to give us the understanding of what he meant and what he wants us to get out of that. And I think it's a very, very dangerous thing to read the Bible without inviting God into that conversation and then think you know something.
Hmm. uh One thing I remember talking about when I was a believer is that, there is that element of, the relationship with God and forming your understanding. But the other element is, it it needs to stack up with the rest of what Scripture says.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there needs to be like continuity. Um,
Yeah, because the Bible never contradicts itself, ever. So if you're looking at the Bible and you think that there's a contradiction, rather than insisting that the Bible has an error somewhere, I think that it's very important to understand that it's a lack of understanding of one or other of the verses. Because yeah, the scriptures, they support each other always, and they don't contradict each other ever. So if
okay.
there's a feeling of contradiction, then the error is with the operator.
Right, right. Okay.
Operator error.
Well, I think we're just slightly over the 10-minute mark. I think we're about at 15. So let's cut it off there. And thank you for your contribution.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you again for having me. It was
Yes,
fun.
certainly. It's nice to see you again.
Okay, you too. We'll talk
Bye
soon.
bye.
Bye bye.